Did I stay home? Nope, just kept coming. I can go work the next day.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll officially call our meeting to order at 4:17, and we'll note that Mr. Beasley and Ms. Hill are not able to be here with us tonight. So our first item on the agenda is just the approval of the agenda. So if you want to take a second to review, it's just up front and a little bit on the back, and then we'll take a motion and a second to approve. Motion by Ms. Lane. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Hobbs. All in favor of approving tonight's agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is to review the minutes from our, that is not the right minutes attached in here. So you have the wrong minutes in your packet. So we will table that item. We will not be approving minutes tonight because I put the wrong ones in here. So we'll do 2 minutes for next month. So thank you. Great work, everybody. Yeah, you can just delete the whole line item. So the next item on our agenda is the good news report. So since our last meeting, we've had our house shirt distribution, we've had map testing, picture day, we had our house meeting and house lunch. And let me say the family showed up and showed out for that. We had so many families here. It was great. I got the opportunity to go and see our Stronger Connection students release their book. The third grade students from last year, they're published authors now. So that was at Joseph Beth. They got to hear from an author and all sign autographs on their own books. And there's a book here in the library forever that has all their signatures in it. So then we had our fall book fair, grandparents breakfast, book fair night. We had Kentucky High Attendance Day. We had the UK nursing students started with us, UK Spirit Day, PTA movie night, even though it rained and we got to be inside, but it was still a great night. And then today we had our amazing busload of books activity, which the kids absolutely loved. They were super excited and super engaged with that. So any additional items to celebrate? Awesome. So moving on to item E, there we don't have any public here, so I don't believe we have any public comment. So we'll move on to line item 2, which is a school improvement planning report. So we're going to start off today with phase 4, which is our progress monitoring phase. And we're going to take a look at our assessment data for the MAP assessment, NSGR, and writing.
Last year in the fall.
Yes. Yes, they did. That was, we'd taken a couple years off and then they had them retake it last year.
I know that there was a point where they did.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, baseline.
Yep. So, so we'll start just by looking at the MAP data. So we'll start with math. So right now we break our achievement data into kind of 5 main categories: 1 to 20, 21 to 40, 41 to 60, 61 to 80, and 81 to 99. The spring on here is the current students, their spring scores. So in the spring of last year, 10% of students were below the 20th percentile. That has increased to 15% with this year. With students, we've enrolled a lot of new students this year. 21 to 40, that maintained at the 9% range. 41 to 16 went from 15 down to 12. 61 to 80 went from 21 up to 24. And then 81 to 99 went from 45 down to 40. So the next page just includes all of the specific grade level information just for your records. If you want to look at how each grade level is doing across the board. When we really look at it, we look at what percent is below the 40th percentile. That's kind of our marker as to where we're at. So when we look at every grade level this fall, we saw an increase in the percentage of students below that 40th percentile. So these are students that should be at risk. And we saw some pretty big jumps at a lot of grade levels. Again, we enrolled a lot of new students this year. So we're going to continue to look at this and explore what's happening. So
I do think for our at-risk population, summer regression is a real issue.
yes. So overall, we went from 19% of our students below the 40th up to 24%. Then this graph just shows each grade level kind of trending over time. Our goal here is that we want these going down, all these lines going down. When we look at it, third grade, the percentage of students below the 40th percentile over time has been increasing. Second grade over time has been increasing. And then our overall has been increasing over time. So kind of just looking at that specifically with math. When we look at grade level norms, it is positive to note that all of our grade levels are above the national norm. So even though we're seeing this larger population of students there, we still have higher students that are kind of balancing it on the other side. We're starting to see a really stark divide where we're valleying out, and we've got some on the low side and some on the high side. But every grade level is at least 3.5 points above the national norms.
District norms,
They have sent that out. I didn't get a chance to look at them, but that'll be something that I'll be exploring this week. When we look at strength and growth areas, interesting to note, most grade levels had a strength of operations and algebraic thinking, and most grade levels had a growth area of number and operation. So some of those basic math skills, just continuing to work and support those. Next, when we look at our three main gap groups that we analyzed, our Hispanic students, our active EL, and our free and reduced lunch students, this is looking at the same students. So it's not looking at like kids that were Hispanic or active EL last year and now gone. It's looking at this year's students and what the gap was. So the gap between a Hispanic student and a white student in the spring of last year was 21 percentiles. It's now up to 23 percentiles. So they're going to score on average 23 percentiles below our white students. For active ELs, that went from 29 up to 31. But while that 31 is an increase, we saw reductions at second grade, third grade, and fourth grade. So we did see, so that kind of balances out. When we look at our free lunch students, that actually dropped. We went down from 25.3 in the spring down to 24.45. So that gap is actually closing with this data, and third, fourth, and fifth are closing as well. The next table is all the data for all the subgroups, lots here, but it kind of just shows you those gaps over time. If it's green, it's getting smaller. If it's red, it's getting larger. If it's blue, they're above. Our Reach Fluent, fully English proficient students, our students that have tested out, they always in math have scored above the non-EL students. And that's been a consistent across the board area. So you can kind of see there's no subgroup that has never closed. It kind of goes up for a little bit, then it comes back down, then it goes up, and then it comes back down. So it's kind of just looking at that ebb and flow and where are we at. What I really start to compare when I look at this is I'm going to look at fall of 24-25 compared to fall of 21-22, because that gives kind of a 4-year or 3-year perspective of, are we closing that gap? So like Hispanic students are going from a 29.95 back in the fall of 21-22, and we've reduced that gap to 23. So even though that gap is still wide, we are closing it over time. Our Black students had a gap of 31 percentiles in 21-22. They're down to 15. Our Asian students, we're starting to see the reverse happen. They used to be performing above their white peers. Now they're performing below their white peers. So we've seen a lot more students from Asian backgrounds coming in that are non-English speaking, more so than coming in with a lot of English in their household. So that's kind of the way we're looking at this, is just getting that long-term view of, are we making progress kind of with subgroups? We know the groups change over time, so it isn't a perfect science, but it's just looking at, are we making that growth that we want to? And then it's a big chart that says all the same stuff and a lot of lines that gets really convoluted. Yeah. So, okay. So reading, same slides here. So below the 20th percentile, we went up from 11% in the spring to 17%. 21 to 40 went from 8 to 9. 41 to 60 went from 11 to 16. 61 to 80 stayed the same at 21, and 81 to 99 went from 49 down to 37. And then you have, of course, all of the individual grade levels. Again, here we look predominantly at the below the 40th percentile. Again, here we saw that massive regression. Thank you. I was like, what is this word? Regression across every grade level. Maybe I do have a concussion. I did fall through my ceiling last night at my house. So fun times. Yeah.
Still don't take a day off.
Still don't take a day off. But so we went from overall, we went from 19% of our students back in the fall or the spring to 26% now. So we are seeing that larger group, which I think makes the council's investment in those EL and MTSS paraeducators really beneficial, because that's going to target these specific groups of students. With the trends, here's more squiggly lines. So grades that are going up, third grade, their percent below the 40th percentile is continuing to increase year over year. That one is green, that's second grade. Second grade is continuing to increase, and then first grade. So really, when we think about it, our primary grades in reading, they're continuing to get a little bit wider. But again, positive note, everyone is above the national norm. Here we do see third grade gets a little bit closer to that national norm with they're only 0.8 above the national average. So still at the average, which is great news, but it just says we've got some work to do to continue to support that group. This one is the most consistent I've ever seen the strength areas come out in all my years. Looking at this, every grade level except for first grade had a strength area in literature. That I've never seen this many grade levels come with that. And on the flip side, almost every one of them, except for kindergarten, has a growth area in informational text. So continuing to work with that informational text and work through it is an area that we can kind of focus our efforts on. Yeah. So when we look at our gap closures, in every subgroup, the gap has widened between the spring of last year to the fall of this year, but we are seeing closure of the gaps at a lot of different grade levels. Then here's, again, all that data. Again, I'm really predominantly looking fall of 21-22 to fall of 24-25 to look at that comparative data, kind of right when we came back from the pandemic, where are we at, and have we made growth over the last 3 years with that? So, but like Hispanic students, which is a key focus area, has gone from a gap of 28 to a gap of 21. So there's some great progress here. We're making growth. The area that concerns me probably the most here is when we look at our EL gap. In 21-22, it was at 25 percentile. It's now up to 36. So we're seeing that EL, as we've also had to reduce the staffing there.
From 6 to 2.
And have to, so there's going to be discussions that we look at as we study this data and say, is what we're doing working, and should we be prioritizing EL over classroom? Kind of where is And it's
And
a,
some of that's not us.
Right.
That's the district.
It is very much the
Like,
district.
That's not us saying, we had 6.
Most
We're
of
not.
it is.
Yeah.
It's all of the district.
and so like, and we're exploding in EL students. The whole district is as a whole, and there are not enough candidates to keep up with, even if we had enough EL positions, there aren't enough qualified candidates to take those positions in schools that are people that are actually applying for those roles. We have tons of people that are EL certified. They're just choosing that they want to stay in a classroom. Lots of squiggles. Okay, the next is our NSGR data. This looks at the individual reading conferences, which is one-on-one with our students. So typically we see closer alignment of actual student performance here because students typically perform better in this area. In the spring of last year, we averaged a 12.61 level, which is an L on here. That has come down to a 9.74. Not something that worries me. The reason for that is it's kindergarten. We added the kindergartners in who all come in at zeros. So they skew the data down as we look at that. So kindergarten through 4th grade, you can see here, these numbers correlate to a letter of the alphabet. So if you're, so on the side over here, you can see like a 9 equals an I. So when we talk about numbers, it's really equating to a letter. So if you need that chart, it's there for that. So you can see here, kindergarten through 4th grade are all performing either at or above where they should be. 5th grade is performing under where we would want them to be. We did bring in, we have 6 5th grade newcomers this year that are brand new, like just now starting. So that has impacted this because they've come in at zeros for the most part. When we look at percent meeting their the goal, 100% of kindergartens meet it because their goal is 0. So great job, kindergarten. But when we look at every grade level, we see 5th grade is not making as much consistent growth as we can, but that we expect to see slower growth. It's a lot harder to move at a 5th grade level than it is to move at the primary levels, just because the skills are the exact same. But overall, 68% of our students are meeting their growth goal. You can see the gaps. Here, our active ELs are closing the gap, and that should be red, are free. So Hispanic and free, the gap got a little bit wider. But our active ELs actually closed. They went from 7 levels to 4.44. And then here's the chart. Again, I'm predominantly looking at this fall to fall range. We didn't start the NSGR until 22-23, so that's why you don't see the 21-22 data on there. And then more squiggly lines. Okay, our last piece of data is the correct writing sequence data. This is Elizabeth Bauer's favorite test ever. She loves it so much. It is not the perfect assessment, but it does allow us to kind of track over time.
I hate the prompts. They're
Yes.
absolutely terrible. That sounds very negative. Well, you're doing a terrible job.
Let me phrase. Miss Bowers loves the assessment, but not the
I don't have a
prompts.
problem with the assessment. I hate them.
Yes.
Try to pick the ones with the most appropriate vocabulary, and it's not easy.
So this is a hard number. So in the fall, we're at 20 whatevers carats.
you
So
averaging it?
it's correct writing sequence. So it's
Oh, okay.
so it's just looking at this. So this is looking at how well the students write sentences and phrasing and everything. So we can see here in the fall, which is to be expected, 1st grade, they were above their goal, which is 2. So two like the dog ran would be 2, like it's 3 words, but it's 2 carats. It's a whole weird thing. So we just really look at
Sounds
growth.
so confusing. I'm like, yeah.
So every other grade level is slightly below that area. This test is this specific score. If they don't write enough, it's not possible for them to get enough points here. So
And like a lot of the newcomers were nothing.
Yeah.
So then that goes in as a 0.
and that
Like,
impacts
I think I
everything.
entered 5 zeros like across the board.
Yeah.
So statistically, that kind of
Which is why we really don't look at this. We have the data from last year, but we're not going to look at it from this last year to this year because we really want to see kind of how it looks this year. So percents meeting, you can see we're right about 39% of our students are able to achieve this, what they're expected to do right now, which is great. That's up. In the fall of last year, we were at 10%.
Oh.
So if when we look at that, when we first did this assessment, like no one could do it. And so we've made progress here and there is improvement in this. When you look at gap groups, Hispanic closed their gap, free and reduced lunch closed their gap, active EL increased their gap. And then here's all the time over time data. We did not start giving this assessment until the winter of 22-23. And that wasn't even, we didn't even give it to everybody at that point. So that's why there's not all the comparative data. And then more squiggly lines. Anyone have any questions around all my squiggly lines and any of the data that we've talked about today?
That big jump
Yes.
from like 10 to 39, is there anything that you attribute that
It was a much more intentional focus around writing for the last school year. So really focusing in on those writing strategies. We also did the assessment a lot of times, which they've got experience with, but really focusing in, and we've kind of shifted our focus from writing pieces to just response and general writing and just, let's just write for writing's sake. Because most 90% of people aren't going to be writing giant things. So, yeah, I mean, okay. So the next thing is we're still in phase 4, which is the progress monitoring phase. This school year, Fayette County adopted 2 brand new curriculums. And that has put a lot of stress on our staff. So in talking with our school-wide success team, they have requested that we remove some items from our current year's plan and just push them into next year and just say, we're going to put this on hold. That's ultimately a council decision. But the school-wide success team has a representative from each grade level. And so I'll just talk through their recommendations of what they are thinking we should remove from this year's plan and just plan to implement it next year. So for writing, which this, and your document is just I only printed you off year 3 for you. They have asked to remove this item here that's in gray on your paper, just that intermediate grades will participate in live scoring seminars in which students respond to grade appropriate prompts and are given immediate feedback in order to improve overall writing performance. Our staff felt like we are already doing that. We don't need it to be something that's officially like here and we need to do a seminar and we're gonna like on a given day that it can be more flexible. So that's the first item. When we look at student engagement, we had planned to add 2 components here around project-based learning. In discussions with the staff, we're just not at a point that that's a lift that we're prepared to make right now. When we wrote this 3 years ago, it was like, yeah, this is a great idea. Project-based learning is going to be an awesome thing. But for right now, it's just not feasible. The staff doesn't feel that it's something that they can pick up and do with fidelity and do well, that it's going to show any sort of improvement. And then the last area that they would like to postpone is this whole new strategy, which was for strategies for working with students in poverty. Ms. Green and I are taking this on as our professional growth plan for this year to work on studying how to do this with students in poverty so that we can be better presenters and share more information into next year. But this just felt like it was something that was just going to be another thing we were trying to do when we didn't feel that we were successful with the writing and the student engagement. So it does have to be technically approved by the council if someone would like to make a motion to remove those items. If not, okay, a motion by Ms. Bowers. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Ott. Any discussion around the CSIP revisions? And again, our goal is not to take these out forever. It's just to let's toss them another year. Let's postpone the implementation till we can do this with more fidelity. So all in favor of approving the revisions to our CSIP, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Awesome. The staff will thank you very much for that. The next 3 items here are, we are now in phase 1 of the CSIP for the 24-25 school year. So the first phase has 3 components to it. The first one is the continuous improvement diagnostic. This is a document that just says that as the principal, I will do the CSIP. And as a council, we will do the CSIP and when all of the pieces need to be done and where. So the extent of this one is I typed in my name and put the date that I did it. So, and we can just approve all 3 of these at the end if we want to. The next document is the executive summary, which is the longest piece of writing that I stole from Dr. Fine and just keep updating the last 2 sentences on. But this just gives details about who Glendover is, who is involved in Glendover, and what great things we're doing. No one reads this unless there is a principal vacancy. So.
And then they rarely quote from it.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. I don't know what you're talking about. So, but yes, so this is just kind of detailing where we stand. And then the last item in here is the school safety report. This just says that we complied with all of the state and federal laws in relation to safety. So you will see that to every answer, I typed in the word yes, except for question number 8, where I typed in yes, August 13th, because that's the day we reviewed the emergency plan with faculty. So that just says that we are doing everything that we're required to do. We have fire drills, we have all those different items. So,
Which we had on the day I gave the writing thing, and half the children said I was reading a book when suddenly the fire alarm went off.
hey,
That was prompt.
they're going from their
And I was
understanding.
reading them 3 weeks later, and I was like,
Okay, do we have a motion to approve the phase 1 CSIP items? Motion by Ms. Russell. Everybody's getting in today. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Bowers. Any discussion? All in favor of approving the phase 1 items, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, the next item on our agenda is just the budget items. You have in front of you the Munis account that you can go ahead and read through and kind of glance through. Again, if you see a negative balance, this is the second year where the district is just taking over transferring funds from one account to another account. So in the past, we've always approved that I could approve budget transfers. We no longer have to do that. The district just says, you have money here, it needs to be here, move it. So they've taken out that step for us, which is nice with that. So if you want to take a second to review. Any questions on the budget? Awesome. Okay, moving on. The next item you have is the school activity fund. Yep,
It says Glendover Julius Marks, like,
they just haven't changed.
changed it.
Yeah,
I think somebody.
yeah. It takes like a work of God to get things in this changed. It'll probably get changed in about 6 years, if I'm guessing.
That's great.
So
And they'll be back together by then.
yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, like that is,
Yeah.
that is, yeah. So the next thing is school activity fund. So you can see here, I believe after our last meeting, we received the check for the summer. We had the YMCA was here for 2 weeks over the summer. And for those 2 weeks, they were here for 8 days. They gave us a check for $2,500. So for a couple weeks of them being here, and really they were outside 90% of the time, we got a good amount of money. So currently here in our school activity fund, we have $101,000 sitting here. Any questions around the school activity fund? Awesome. The next item on here is just the ESS budget. This is just to let everybody know we received our allocation for ESS for the 24-25 school year. There's no paper in here. We got $9,983, which is a reduction from last year. So it just keeps going down every single year. So we use part of that money typically to help fund the kindergarten camp during the summer, and then just different resources and activities based on what we feel is needed. We typically do a spring activity so that we can look at our fall and winter data and say, okay, where is our true need? What do we need to invest in? But it's not any money.
We don't have enough money to do something all year.
Yeah. So, okay. Next item on here is committee reports. We don't have any committee reports today. So we'll move on to the bylaw or policy review. We have 4 policies to review today. The first one is the alignment with state standards. If everyone wants to take a second to read that one, that just says that we will teach the standards and do a school improvement plan. If everybody's good with, awesome. Okay, no changes. So I will update the date on that.
Is that W italicized or is it just?
Yeah, I'll adjust that.
Okay.
I'll figure out what's going on there. The next item, the next
Like
policy
people.
is the committee's policy. I made one small change here, 2 small changes. I changed the leadership team to school-wide success, which is what we call it. And I added the word attendance under behavioral emotional attendance support team because we went from best to beast this year. So
It was not my idea, I promise. We're not feeding kids to the beast, but we are sending them to the beast.
So if everyone wants to take a second to
That was bad.
review those.
Who makes up these council?
The staff, and then we put it out to families. That'll be going in the newsletter this week. To any families that want to participate in that, they will get to participate in that as well, if they so choose. But we've not had. I've never had a parent actually say, "Yes, I want to serve on one of those committees." So.
Is that true? We had parents we had 2 parents last year and then they never showed up for one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think people said they did, and then
Realized what it was and just changed their mind promptly.
Really?
Uh-huh.
So-
Yeah.
Staff wellness.
they talk about good things for the staff, like employee wellness.
That's who voted to get our massaging
I was
chairs.
gonna say, so
and-
like stress
Remember they gave us
relief,
money
stress
that we
management.
could only spend on like stuff to make us well, not actually.
For one
giving us
time.
money.
They don't really do much right now, but it's just kind of included. That's a district wide. We have to have it. So rather than us having 9 committees, we just said this is all one. Yeah.
School therapy session.
Mhm.
Mhm, mhm.
Yeah. Too bad we couldn't use the money for that.
Nope, can't use money for that.
Yep. Any other changes anybody wants to recommend for that policy?
No, it looks.
Okay. So that'll come back for a second read and a vote officially next month with that. The next policy is the instructional practices policy. This one just says kind of what we're gonna do. I did not see any changes that were needed here. If you have any, please let me know.
Are you well in this policy?
The instructional
Oh,
practices.
sorry, I'm ahead. I was like, "No, it's not right." Well, or not paying attention. Sorry.
Looks lovely.
Okay. Awesome. So moving on to our wellness policy. And again, if I didn't say this already, if we ever want to bring a policy back up, if we read it again later, it can always come back. We're not one and done here. So if everyone wants to take a second to look at this policy, I didn't see any specific changes.
So my question on this policy has nothing to do with changing anything, but how is it? What I'm looking for, monitored? Like, I mean, I know for a fact that people are using electronic devices when they can't go outside.
And that's more for,
And I love
You know
that, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I know that there, I know,
Yeah.
I know that happens.
yeah. And the way that I've always interpreted that is if we're inside, it's just a different game. Like it's,
I know, but
right. So we can adjust that and,
do we,
Why does it have to be an option? I think is what
Yeah.
she's saying.
like, are we gonna are we letting teachers use electronic devices or are we not?
Yeah.
Because I know that they are, and it says that there shouldn't be.
I mean,
So I just didn't
technically,
know.
like sitting on the floor and playing checkers in my room on a rug doesn't exactly encourage physical activity.
No,
Yeah.
I was thinking, I'm more on the electronic device thing than the physical. That means, I just was curious.
yeah. And that's something that I haven't pushed hard and we can, like, if that's something we want to,
But I mean, at the same time, electronic devices, if you have like, if you're showing movement dance videos, that's promoting physical activities. Like, I feel like this could be a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
It's like a nuanced thing.
yeah.
I guess we might want to look at being more specific of like, you're not playing Roblox.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Yeah.
just my opinion. I don't know. Maybe it's an unpopular one.
You have
So,
me
well-
as the world's meanest teacher, I say that is that electronic device is like a textbook. We don't use that during.
Yeah.
So let's send this to our social success committee and just have them take a look and have discussions around what kind of indoor recess should really look like and kind of what their recommendation as staff members so that we can kind of look at how people are utilizing it and how we want to interpret
And
that.
I would say, I feel very confident that if they came up with some ideas and some things that they want and give that to the PTA, that we could get some parents to donate some things to different grade levels, different classrooms that could help them
Yeah.
with that area. Because I know that's a struggle. I mean, indoor recess is awful for everybody.
Yeah.
And we want to support that as much as possible. And I'm not saying electronic devices are like a no,
Right.
or it needs to look a certain way, in my opinion.
Yeah. So yeah, I think let's have them take a look at this and with a specific charge on what do we want them to look like for indoor recess and how can we implement this during indoor recess to promote that physical activity with that.
I look at indoor recess as more like a social,
Yeah.
like, it's an opportunity to do an activity, but you have to do it with like a small group and you're at least socializing, you're relaxing. Am I running group exercise during
Right.
indoor recess? Absolutely not. I have to meet my room safe.
No, but they might
So-
just be able to add the word individual. Students are not to use individual
Yeah.
electronic
Yeah.
devices.
Yeah.
I mean,
But at the same time, like that's also not put on a show.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yeah.
I mean, if there is a group of kids playing Racco during indoor recess, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Hang out with your friends, but that's all.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great concept to make sure that we've got
It's just
something
clear.
in there. Yeah, I agree.
what committee are we sending this back to?
Social success. So I'll ask them to take a look at the whole thing, but specifically talking about indoor recess here.
And make a wish list.
So we'll table this, that'll go back and then it'll come back for a first read once they've had time to review that. Okay,
Sorry.
keep reading.
This is, I'm gonna just ask a question for
Uh-huh.
clarification. So the 20 minutes of recess, is that policy set by like state
Yes, yeah.
regulations? Okay.
Yes,
And I know that kindergarten has 2 recesses.
yes.
Have there been conversations in the past about giving more, like an extra 5 minutes even per like recess period?
Yeah, we can't go above that 20 minutes total for state regulation. The reason kindergarten has multiple is because of they're not in compensatory education, so they don't are compulsory education, so they don't count in the instructional minutes.
Got it.
So that's
So
where,
the instructional minutes is really what
yes,
constrains that.
yes.
Okay.
If the district were to extend our school day, then yes, if we were ever to go longer, I would be like, we're going more recess and
Right.
doing that in
Yeah,
a different
There's
way.
a lot of backlash, a lot of schools this year that took away
Mhm.
all their primary K.
Yeah, because the state and the district have been coming in and auditing
Yeah.
schools' master schedules.
Veterans Heart, Cassie, they all lost their, but they still have it for K, but they lost it for like, the veterans had it through fifth.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because like what schools were doing is they, in their wellness policy, they had an additional wellness time, but it has to be an instructional time. So it has to be those group fitness activities or structured walking, like,
Yeah, I found this funny to try to like not make parents mad. They like tried to word it so that it was them walking between the classes counted, like walking to the
As-
cafeteria.
yeah.
My
As
friend, as a gym
fitness.
owner, was like,
Only if they
That might be
turn the
most
hallways
welcome
into an
for these
obstacle
kids,
course,
just
which
Yeah.
is actually,
that's true. Okay, sorry.
no, that's helpful.
Yeah.
So, being new, it's helpful to get like the historical.
Yes.
context, so.
I'm good now, I'm finished.
Okay.
It
Any
drives
other?
me crazy when kids bring crap food to school.
Yeah.
That's really.
And there's going to be a reminder in the newsletter this week around restaurant food and soft drinks.
Well, and or it's like, I'm gonna eat Glendover lunch, but then I'm gonna bring like a bag of Funyuns or whatever.
Uh-huh.
That's actually got 4 servings.
Yeah, the
And it's like, that drives me crazy.
I
Yeah.
love that both of my children get snack at school because Lord knows I need a snack during the day. But I'm curious how that works out because Scarlett's like, I had my first Taki today, and she's like, I did not like it. But,
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And I mean, my kids only eat like.
But I mean, people are letting their kids, I mean, like, it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I think that the snack is gonna be what gets you the most. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's gonna be tough.
That's a whole nother and the cafeteria can only serve what's purchased for them.
Mhm.
They don't have.
Is that
control over
also through the district?
Mhm.
Or
Yeah.
the district deciding.
More of a state policy, isn't it?
Well,
Versus
it's
federal.
federal. So
And it's vendors that have bid and it's,
Yeah.
it's a whole layer of onions way beyond what we have capacity
Yeah.
to deal with, but it's disappointing.
So the next item on here is our enrollment update. So as of me running this, we have 460 students enrolled. This changes every day. We got a phone call at 2:15 today that we have a student leaving. Like we had 2 students leave us yesterday. So it's just like it ebbs and flows. We get more and then we lose some and then we get more. But yeah, but this is still going up. So on the whole, we are increasing over time. So we have 83 in kindergarten, 96 in first grade, 68 in second, 74 in third, 80 in fourth, and 59 in fifth. So our 59 is, our 5th grade is pretty small, and our 4th grade is not so small. The next item on here is our attendance update. This just looks at each grade. So last week was a rough week. Definitely saw that illness. Again, our goal is 95%. We want to be at 95 every week.
That's when I was.
So currently the only grade level that has not been hit is 3rd grade, which is, I'm sure it's coming, but they're the only one who has been consistently at 95.
4-H is breathing that fresh air.
Yep, it just made all the difference. So moving on to staffing and hiring update. So we were able to purchase with the day 10 money 2 EL MTSS instructional paraeducators. We were able to get them up to 0.7s. I went ahead and dipped into a little bit of the after school money to get us to 0.7 because 0.7 gives them benefits. So that was where that opened up our pool of candidates because we were able to say, you're going to get benefits with this role. We did do interviews last week, and we have recommended to the district Krista McManus. She actually interviewed for our preschool instructional pair,
No, so for
Special ed.
Special ed.
a special ed para position. And so she is going to be a great asset to us. She lives in the neighborhood. Her kids went to school here.
I was gonna say that name
I
seems
know, I was
familiar.
thinking,
So
What were her kids' names?
uh,
No, I don't think so.
no.
Dear God.
She's a librarian by trade, has a history of working with kids in the public sector, so public library.
Oh, she did interview for the.
No,
Yeah.
their last name.
Oh,
was
did she
Manus.
interview for
Well,
We did both of them at the same
Manus
time.
was-
Together. She's a
Yeah.
mom. right?
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
That was Manus.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not that.
Okay.
So-
I swear that name.
I know, it does.
and then this other one is Graciela Villanueva. She is really who we created this position with in mind. This was an individual that we interviewed over the summer for a special ed para position. She speaks predominantly Spanish. She is the grandmother of one of our 5th grade students. So she's going to be a great bridge for those Spanish speaking students to allow them to receive some instruction in Spanish and get those intervention services in their home language, as well as hearing it in English here. So we're very excited to have them both joining us. The district has not sent out the official offers yet, so our hope is for them to start after fall break. If they get here sooner, great. If not, we will go from there. So
And 0.7 is that every day but reduced hours?
yes, every day. So they will work roughly 8:30 to 2 will be their schedules. So they'll be able to assist. And right now we have them assisting every single grade level with either EL services or intervention services. So,
I'm so excited.
I can't stand it.
okay. So the next item on our agenda is field trips. So we have 4 field trips. Again, these are just notification for the council so everybody knows where people are going. Kindergarten is going to be going to Evans Orchard on October 10th to talk about life cycles and get some pumpkins. So they'll be making that trip. The cost per student for that trip is $12. The next group is 3rd grade. We'll be going on Thursday, December 5th to the Lexington Children's Theater to see Elf Jr. And so that will cost some money. They didn't tell me how much. They started to but they get every 10th ticket free. So
$627 over here.
that's the total cost. So divide that by about 80, and that's what you got for the cost. 3rd grade has used all of their money from the PTA for their 4-H trip, which was great. But so that their field trips will be a little bit more over time. 2nd grade will be going to Salados Wildlife Center next week on September 25th.
Salado or Salado?
Salado.
Salado.
Oh, I always call it Salado.
I call it Salado too.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, it's always been Salado to me, but
It was renovated this past year, so we sometimes we go, but it was completely renovated last year.
awesome. So they're going to be talking about plants and animals and diversity of life. So that's will be them. And then kindergarten will be going on November 8th to the Opera House to see Frozen by Scappa. So there, Scappa is putting on Frozen. Kindergarten is, yes, on November 8th. So we were the last school to get into that performance. So, so those are all there. Okay, the next item on our agenda is some fund requests. When certain things I'll approve just kind of on my own, but these are 4 items that have been requested that want the council's opinions on moving forward, because we may have to either dip into after school funds, Title I funds to fund these. So on here, there are 4 kind of requests. The first request is for us to collaborate with 4 other
I
schools.
knew they weren't paying for it.
They-
I knew they weren't.
They
paying
did
for
pay
it.
for it and then they stopped paying for it. So
I
is
knew it.
to pay for the Core Connections professional learning. This past year, our 5th grade participated in a pilot program around this writing program. When we get our KSA data next week, we will see that there is dramatic improvement than we would have had if we had not had this program. So it works on, fifth grade really worked on on-demand writing and responding to text and learning strategies to support that. So we would like to
We
bring,
met last week.
Yes.
And the kids have caught on like crazy quick.
Mhm.
Yes.
We're just doing main idea and details and they've caught on to it like really quickly. And then today we adapted it doing character traits and theme and they caught on really quickly.
Yeah.
So
it's a great,
It's-
easy structure.
it's very simple. It's very similar to Foursquare.
Yeah.
It's near and dear to my heart. So
So
it's
we're,
actually pretty,
Yeah.
it's not bad at all.
So we're wanting to continue this work with the person who did the training last year, but expand it out into fourth grade. So fourth grade would go through year one of the program, learning how to respond to text, the main idea details piece of it. Fifth grade would be moving into working on on-demand or short answers, extended responses, and just writing across content areas to kind of build that. It does come at a cost of around $9,000 to $10,000. But in my opinion, and talking to fifth grade, it's the best professional learning that any of them have ever had. In regards to that, she will be coming, that $10,000, about $6,400 is the actual professional learning. With that, it's 5 days of professional learning, 3 for fourth grade, 2 for fifth grade, and then 2 days where she actually comes here and models and coaches within that program. So that is the first proposal, is to allocate $10,000 to that program. The second request, Mystery Science.
Please.
I don't know when we bought it. I don't know how we bought it, but it is expired. So the cost for a school-wide license is $1,999. I did ask the staff just kind of who's using, who wants this. 17 staff members replied, and of that 17, 14 said yes, they are using it. So for me, that is a good amount, which would justify a $2,000 purchase. It's about $100, $120 per teacher. Mystery Science allows for online learning and just, it's an easy to implement science curriculum that supports
And it matches
and it
the
matches.
national standards for science.
It's inquiry based.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
actually really good, like really, really good.
So the next one is RAS Plus. This request is coming from our EL department. They're requesting to get 2 classroom licenses for our newcomer students to be able to use this online adaptive program. It comes with, so it's $248 per classroom. We would need 2 classrooms because we have 40 newcomer students. So it's about $500 there. They're asking to add on the $75 per classroom to get it in, to allow it to be in Spanish. The reason I didn't list it out as this is the total cost is because if we want to invest more in this, we could invest more and then open it up to other grade levels. Teachers like the program. Currently, we do not have a digital program for reading other than IXL.
32 students, is that the?
Yeah,
the
it's-
cap per
yeah, it's
classroom
the-
is
yeah.
32
So,
still? Okay.
Yeah, 32 or 34. It's
Okay.
right there in that range. So that's why we have 40 newcomer students that EL wants to specifically use this with to allow that differentiation to occur in the classroom. And then the last request is to get Brain Pop. Brain Pop costs $330 per classroom. If we don't load students, everyone can share the same password.
Yeah, can we also buy vocabulary that way?
No.
What is Brain
The
Pop?
vocabulary is like $2,400 for one now. Vocabulary
I'll
has,
continue to steal the password I
yes,
found online.
please do.
It's so good. It's so much better than Brain Pop.
So
I
What
tried
is,
to
what
get
is
it.
Brain Pop? Can I get
the
that?
Brain Pop is videos.
It's like, there's 6 to 8 minute videos of topics and they have everything
Like
from
puzzles.
technology,
Yeah,
science. I mean,
or-
it's just kind of-
It's a good, like, we use them a lot, like introducing things, like, oh, like, let's look at, like it's everything.
Yeah, it's like a little overview. of
Yeah, it's just a
something,
little blippy thing.
Yeah.
It's like-
So,
All strands, like reading, math,
Copies
science,
of it. I
social
can never
studies,
get
all
anybody
kinds
to
of
send
like
me a
cute
form.
little,
Yeah.
they like
Oh,
it.
really?
Vocabulary, I like
Is
it.
that used
Yes.
by most grade levels, Brain Pop?
yes.
When we have it.
when
We
it's
have
when
it.
it's available, people will use it. This is just 330 is just for Brain Pop, which is the older kid version. There is a Brain Pop Junior, which is the same price, so we can choose to invest $700 and get 2 licenses, one for Brain Pop Junior, one for Brain Pop, if that's the direction the council rep wants to go. I believe that all of these are worth investments in. They just go above what we've initially allocated funds for. So I just always want to bring these to the council for discussion and approval. We can either go one by one, we can do it all together, however we want to talk about it and look at it.
What's the age range for the Brain Pop Junior?
Brain Pop Junior is pre-K through about second.
I don't mind Brain Pop to be like.
It's not that hot. Like
I don't- I
you
mean,
could show
it's-
Brain Pop to first grade. It doesn't go down to pre-K level, but
I mean, is it prepared for kindergarten? then?
yes, to an extent.
Yeah.
You gotta be a little
Depends on the
selective.
topic.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them get, they start going into photosynthesis and stuff like that.
But some of them are
so-
super basic.
Only $11 a month. 11.15.
So
That's vocabulary. It's only 11.15.
that's if you buy it individually, which they don't let schools buy it individually. I've tried it. And I hate talking to the vocabulary vendor because they send you 700 emails a day until you tell them to
That's
leave
all
you
right.
alone.
I'm stealing someone's password.
So,
It tells me every time I log in, it says, this password has been compromised. And I'm like, no, really?
okay, so do we, Raz Plus, we want 2 licenses? Do we want,
Is there other interest? I guess my thing is are there?
no
other-
one else has expressed
Okay.
interest in it. No one else has come
What
to me and
happened to
said,
Rad's Kids?
Rad's Kids is just the downloads.
It's
Oh,
just
those
the
little
books.
books. that
The
you can-
books.
okay.
And
Raz
Plus-
Plus
I never used it,
is,
so I don't even know.
there's
Plus
Raz
lets
has
the
got
kids log in and they can go in, you can assign books to them in different levels. I mean, it's a
I
little
got it.
more,
Okay.
you know.
so EL again is requesting 2 licenses. I don't know what primary, I did not ask specifically about this one for everybody else.
It seems that it would help like to have the Spanish version for children.
Oh, I think they're all fine.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I do
too.
Yeah.
I think
It seems
so.
like in reviewing the data of EL performance, every resource is provided.
Okay. So recommending 2 licenses here with the Espanol added on. To that, Brain Pop,
Right.
1.
You just share it. and
That's
then- I don't think you
what
should-
I'm saying.
Oh, I'm like, there is no way I'm approving every classroom to spend 300.
No, that's just, I just put it in there so that we had,
Okay, I thought that's what you were asking. I was like, no.
Yes.
do we want junior as well?
I know,
mean,
I
I
just don't
guess-
find it that high.
Well,
seems
and
like
my thing is who's really using it? I mean,
Yeah.
does
There's-
kindergarten use it?
I
It's
don't
like
know off the
4
top of my
things I
head.
use on junior, they're all technology and I can find them on YouTube.
Yeah,
And it
Yeah,
might
I
not
don't
be a
think that-
weekly basis that we. would
Right.
use it.
I would just get the regular one.
so
I mean,
we're recommending here. Okay, so
I mean, it's not like they're discussing things that are,
no,
I've never found them to be like, I don't know. Now vocabulary, you go in, they're rated by grade level, like. you don't
Yeah.
put those out. Let me just talk about vocabulary one.
I don't know how you feel about that.
Sponsor?
Hey, I got in when vocabulary was $8 a year. And then I let it lapse and I came back to renew and it was $95. Like, so they're
I
making
paid the
bank.
$50 upgrade to extra math so I can assign different stuff.
Yeah. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve these 4 fund requests as we talked about? Motion by Ms. Hobbs. Is there a second?
second.
Second by Ms. Lane. All in, any discussion?
Do we know when this professional learning is happening? Like, do you have dates
October
and stuff?
24th is the first one for 4th grade.
Oh,
We're already moving on this.
no, it's fine. I just was just like,
Yes,
I'm
we're
taking
already,
Carol that day.
yes. October 24th is 4th grade. October
Are you doing
25th
it?
is 5th grade.
It's on the-
Okay, so
Oh my
I will get
God.
with specifically with 4th and 5th around their dates. with that.
I
So
updated my phone and now my calendar's bizarre.
all in favor of approving these items, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
We're actually having SBDM on the 24th. I don't have to go anywhere, do I?
On October?
You'll be at Brenda Cowan.
Wait,
Just saying.
We moved it that week
We
because
moved
of,
it for
oh, yeah, we did. Wait. we moved it to the-
okay, motion approved. Before we go.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yes, it's October 24th now, not the 17th.
That's the first?
No, 22nd.
Yeah, 'cause we
22nd.
had to move it
October
to
22nd.
22nd.
October
That's what I have
22nd.
in here is the
Yes,
22nd.
20
I was like,
Not the 24th,
no, it's
22nd.
just not the 15th.
Yes, it's not the 15th.
Wait a minute, it's the 22nd?
Yes, it's
It's
Tuesday.
SBDM, and then 24th is your training.
Because I extended it for a whole bunch of days.
I
I have SBDM every day for 2 weeks.
Okay,
Sorry.
awesome.
That explains.
I
why I
remember the
said
switch because of the conference week, but.
Yeah.
okay.
So our last item on our agenda today is a discussion around supplemental duties. When we approved staffing, we approved to keep the supplemental duty funds intact, to use them for different things. So this is my recommendation on how to use that. We have $13,550 allocated in supplemental duties. My recommendation is to allocate $1,800 for our special ed team members who are required to stay after school for their PLC meetings. That equates to about $200 per person. It's a huge amount for them. They just are going to really miss this. But it does just take the edge off of, hey, I have to stay, when you do get a little piece. Team leads recommending $6,400, which is $800 per person. $800 for our SBDM secretary, $800 for our social media coordinator, and then that leaves us with $3,750 for after school funds. When I look at after school funds and who's running them, these are kind of the pieces that I look at. Is how many hours it's going to be work. It's about $25 an hour. So if you have 8 meetings for 8 hours, 1 hour each, 8 hours, that's $200. 16 is 400. You can only do those 200, 400, 600, or 800 values. In addition, the district funds a whole lot of positions that are above and beyond this, like school technology coordinator, which Ms. Lane does. That's funded by the district. STLP, IC building coach, academic challenge coordinator, esports, the unity lead, Title I. So those things all get funded outside of us. So we don't need to allocate funds for those. So any discussion, or do we have a motion around the supplemental duty proposal?
I'll make a motion, but actually, I guess a question. But
Yeah.
What are after school clubs looking like right now?
Right now, we have a fair amount. We have ones that are starting. We have tennis and running club, which are run by overtime. We have girls on the run
Wait,
starting.
Who's doing, yeah, so.
That's an outside vendor.
So we're
So
not paying for that.
we're
I'm
not-
wondering,
Yeah.
want to know that.
Right now, girls on the run is starting up.
Yes.
Stronger connections, which we don't have, that one's under district funded. That's happening. That's starting 2 days a week after fall break. I know choir is rolling, esports, but that's
The
paid
esports is
extra.
district, Yeah.
We have Lexington Children's Theater, which a staff member helps to coordinate.
Wait, a staff member helps with that?
Yes, they coordinate it.
So they'll get paid.
Yeah,
one
just the
fee. I'm
200, yeah.
curious of out of this, how much of this money we're spending? Like,
We-
will it get filled?
Yes, it will get filled, not right now, but
throughout the
coming,
year.
because like I know we have a staff member who wants to do a dance team. I know we have a staff member that wants to bring back the sewing club. We have Miss Cook is doing a book club with some 5th grade students. We have academic team, which is district funded.
Everything coming back.
But we're starting to see this bigger
Yeah, I'm just
push
seeing
around.
so many outside vendors and so many things like that and district funded that I'm just like, how many of these are actually gonna get filled, where we could put it more towards, like,
Yeah.
this ed team has to, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
And we
I
can
just
come
wanna know
back at
what's
the end of the year. Like, so I don't officially put out those allocations. Yeah. I don't put them out until we're done, until it's like, okay, this club has started. This is this person. I don't actually
I want
allocate those funds.
All of those teachers to get paid.
Yeah.
You know, for their efforts. I just want to make sure that it's actually.
Yeah. So if we come back at the end of the year and it's like, hey, we still have $1,000 left in supplemental duties, how do we want to reallocate those funds? So we have some flexibility here. This isn't like, it just gives me the ability to not have to come here every time we have a new club. Hey, I want to give this person $800. I want to give this it kind of gives us some flexibility.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Hobbs. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Ott. Any more discussion? All in favor of approving the supplemental duties, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. And the last item on our agenda, we don't have any agenda items for next month because we'll be spending a lot of time talking about KSA data
When do you tell Saturday?
next Thursday. So that will officially, and then it goes public over fall break during that time. So, yeah.
Where we have special permission to be able to tell staff at least,
Yeah.
not the
Because, yeah.
details, but the overarching, so they don't see it on the news first.
Yes, because Jefferson County and Fayette County are both on fall break when the public release happens. So, okay, do we have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting? Motion by Ms. Hobbs. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Russell. All in favor of adjourning our meeting tonight, please say aye. All
Like it.
opposed, please say nay. Motion carries 5:21. Have a great night.
Is it Title I, Title II, any of that, or just professional? learning?